Well, I found that there is definitely an audience for romantic fiction, which is what I write. Although it was a bit slow to get noticed at first, but I think obviously with the more books I've written, more and more people have become aware.
That if you type in African horror, the first thing that comes up is massacres and atrocities in Zaire and Congo. It's all about the political situation in the continent as against the literary genre. And that's when I decided we have every right, we're entitled to be recognized within the horror genre.
Genres are there. Also, they're business decisions as well. It's not just an artistic decision that says, oh, I like to read this genre. Sometimes it's just also what's been marketed to us. So sometimes maybe the first kind of reading we get to do is romance reading. And maybe that's the most accessible and that's the most interesting rather than, say, crime or thriller to start with.
Well, she had a lot of marketing behind her. So I think that's another issue, is how you're marketed, and if your writing is accessible. So when you read her stories, they are multicultural.
Ada told him about her studies in university and her intention to obtain an MBA one day. He told her how he spent his childhood in Lagos, but had moved to London when he was 10, only coming home for the holidays, then going on to study his ACCA and pass the final stages of his exams, which she thought was very impressive. So what about your sister Samantha? Doesn't she get a say in how the business is run? I mean, if it's a family-run thing. Said Tony. My sister, well, as my father says, she's just a girl. She will get married and go to her husband's house and let her BSc become redundant.
As I read this poem, body parts are flying somewhere in Nigeria. As I read this poem, rich men are sitting comfortably in their chair claiming to be concerned about Nigeria. I can hear their cry. Sounds like the voices of almost 300 girls stolen from their families and paying for their freedom with bondage. I looked up the definition of westernization, so I guess I was lucky to escape, but I'm not too far away because I can hear their cry. I can hear their cry. It sounds louder when I watch the news every night at 9 and I'm reminded that the youngest girl was about 9. Sold into the hands of a man that will teach her that love is born out of hate, or that bondage is power, or that her beauty can be measured by a ransom of money from rich men, or that religion can be found in the mouth of a gun, or that freedom is also a synonym for slavery, or that tears are simply droplets of water that have no meaning.
So yes, you can, but it needs to be very realistic. You need to have a plan. You need to have a plan and follow it through. And, it's okay if whatever plan you have doesn't quite work out, because then you can be flexible and just adapt.
Know what you're doing and put everything into it. If you're writing full time, focus on it as if there's nothing else to do. But if you're able to juggle it, which I do, I juggle full working, which helps to pay the bills, and I write because it's a passion. So at the moment, I'm not at that point where I can say I'm going to stop working because my writing income is not able to do that. I'm not able to put everything I need to put into my writing to get there. So you need to know yourself and balance it.
No, okay. But if anybody does want to become a full-time writer, you have to have a business plan. You have to know who your target market is. What are your strengths? Do you want to write fiction or non-fiction? Do you want to write for magazines or do you want to write for corporate websites? Do you want to write for government agencies? Do you want to write for health agencies? You have to know what you're writing about and who is going to buy your writing, who's going to pay you for your writing.
If you're writing fiction and you're published, I mean, whether you go down the traditional route or whether you go down the self-publishing route, however much you get paid isn't going to pay your bills. Unless you're Dan Brown or Chimamanda, or you've got a different income coming in from somewhere else. So it's always going to be a challenge until you hit it big. And then you can say, okay, yeah, I'm a full-time writer and, pack in the day job. But until then, you have to juggle and do other things.
The future of publishing in the UK. Now, publishing is a very interesting business at the moment because it's going through several incarnations. Like so many different things are happening. Traditional publishing is there, it exists. Then there's self-publishing, and then there's hybrid publishing, and then there's collaborative publishing. And there's so many different ways people get published nowadays. And the main thing is if as a writer you want to get published, you just have to know your options, and you have to be prepared to go with which one works best for you. I know some people do both, because there are many authors out there who have some books traditionally published, and then they write some other books which they know that the mainstream market is not ready for, but they feel they want to write those books, so they go self-publishing, and they call themselves hybrid authors.
In my case, I started with short stories, and at first I was going to start writing a novel immediately, but I needed to get the craft of writing short stories. And it was after I started writing short stories that I won a couple of writing awards, and that, in a way, opened the door. And I decided to go onto Facebook. I was dragged kicking and screaming onto Facebook to start my own blog. And it was while I was on Facebook that I met other writers who were doing the same thing. I met Kiru and a lot of other writers who were doing different kinds of writing. And the networking started. One thing about networking is so good because I met other writers. I met Abidemi, I met Shadi, I met other people, and they all shared the whole angst of writing with me. You need to have a blog, you need to network, you need to get out there, you need to let people know about what you're doing, and you don't have that luxury as an emerging writer to sit down and think that your writer is going to speak for you. So it's either way, self-publishing or being a traditional publisher, you still have to do your work.
I write flash fiction, and a lot of the time, a lot of people ask me, oh, that would work very well as a short film, because it's a short 10-minute film. Well, it's a short story of about 500 words, and you just get a glimpse of somebody's life, or you just get a little bit of action. And people tell me, oh, why don't you make this into a short film? And I keep thinking, yes, I should actually, because I should go beyond just words. I should actually translate my words to the screen. And to me, following on from the success of Half of a Yellow Sun movie, is like, why not? There's so many stories that Africans tell that, they just get buried in books because nobody reads them. Most of our audience are moving away from just print. People listen to podcasts on their way to work, or listen to audiobooks. People share videos on YouTube and Facebook and all that. Not everybody has the time to pick up a novel to read and actually sit down and enjoy it and then give us feedback. A lot of people just go on YouTube, watch a video, and just leave a comment, and that's the way they consume media. So I think as writers, we need to move with the times and see opportunities for us to spread our word through other media apart from just print.
Apart from the picture books, we also need to start engaging children in other forms of literature, so to speak, because even though cartoons aren't really literature, but it boils down from someone having written down something.
Please keep up the good work, and I'm looking for gender issues in international development. I'm really excited about politics and gender politics, and that's where I've come, and I'm looking for feature films.
Thank you. I was just wondering if our writers could create content for African children who live in this country. Because many times our children read a lot of stuff from America. They read a lot of not non-African stuff. And there's a gap between what a Black or African child growing up in this country knows about him or herself. And that's a big issue. And it worries me that it's all good to write horror or romance and blah, 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 these other things. We need to engage young African children.
And I actually I tried to search for African novels for, that age, and I couldn't find anything. And it's so true. And I think you guys are fantastic. I'm really excited. I'm into media myself. I do basically what everyone else is doing here. And someone said to me, you need to go into writing just this week. I'm not going to go into that, but I'm really inspired. And I think you guys are amazing. Keep it up.
Children's book. Now, my book is stemmed, actually I have, it's just come out, and my reason was, in terms of a child's book, how do you market it?
Overhanging the murky cloud. All I had to do was squint hard enough to see it. But at that point in time, all I saw were the ringing tears as I spent money I didn't have on Christmas presents. Black dots swam before my eyes, and I made an effort to pull myself together. Cool, calm, and collected was the image I aimed for. The British bulldog spirit in the face of adversity. The Nigerian braggadocio in the face of abject desperation.
Many times I've returned to the Lagos International Airport, remembering the send-off, filled with the various expressions of prayers, hopes, and aspirations. And the small party was my friend Shani. Oh, she cried and cried. I was only going 6 hours away. The potential of what that meant was that she would never see me again. It's a shame now, although she lives in Leeds, I never see her. We hardly never talk. Olashupa was the man I was meant to have married.